sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Homage to our most venerable teacher Bhante, our Kalyana Mitta Gurudeva Uttama Pinvastapu Swami Namaste. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Buddhaya. Today, in the program, we have a beautiful episode to talk about the Bikuni Ordination. It's such a beautiful story we have. Bikuni Ordination. You know, Bikuni is a nun in the Buddha's dispensation. If I ask a question, who is the first Bikuni, first nun in our Buddha's dispensation?
Queen Mahapajapati Gautami.
Good. That's the story that we are going to talk today. If you remember, Mahapajapati Gautami was the stepmother or the aunt of Siddhartha Gautama, the Prince Siddhartha. After passing away of Queen Mahamaya, the mother of Siddhartha Bodhisattva, Queen Mahapajapati Gautami got the responsibility to take care of this beautiful prince. And she gave her love and affection and everything to raise this beautiful prince. And if you remember, the king Suddhodana, he understood the Dhamma. And on the final bed, on the deathbed, King Suddhodana understood the Dhamma fully. He became Arahant and he passed into Nibbana. As a layperson, he attained the Arahantship. You remember? And then Queen Mahapajapati Gautami was thinking, oh, my beautiful prince Siddhartha, he renounced and he became the Buddha. And Prince Rahula, the son of Siddhartha, he also went to the Supreme Buddha asking his heritage, and he became a monk too. Do you remember that stories? And Prince Nanda, the son of Mahapajapati Gautami, he also went to the Buddha and he became a monk. And King Suddhodana passed into final Nibbana, and I am alone. And on that day, she was thinking, if I go to the Buddha for my ordination, that would be for my realization of Dhamma, she thought. And if you remember by now, do you remember the battle between Sakyans and Kolians for water in the river Rohini? They were fighting. We have that story too. They were fighting for water in the Rohini river for their both fields in the both countries, Sakyan country and Kolian country. And after this battle, so the battle didn't happen actually. The Buddha came and seized the battle, and for the happiness of protecting people from both sides, 500 people came to the Buddha, 500 princes came to the Buddha for the ordination. 250 people from Sakyan families, 250 people from Kolian families, altogether 500 people. With that going forth of these 500 people, 500 women, the wives of these 500 people, they were waiting too for the ordination. with these 500 women from the 500 families of Sakyans and Kolyans. Mahaprajapati Gautami wanted to go to the Supreme Buddha for the high holy. That's the story that we have today. So, if I share my screen, homage to the Supreme Buddha. Arahant Mahaprajapati Theri. She was so fortunate to get this opportunity and she became Arahant. Yes. What about Dinudaham for the first? This is the war actually between Sakyans and Kolyans. When you see the picture I share, you get a perfect idea.
And my son. War between the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu and of Kolya. There was a small river by the name of Rohini between Kapilavatthu and Kolya. The two kingdoms took turns in perfect harmony to water their respective farms, lands by controlling the flow of the channel with a single dam. The level of the water in the channel was at its lowest in the dry season, and the crops usually withered. The farmers of the two countries called a meeting to discuss the matter of sharing the water in the channel.
See the picture? The river is like drying up. They have both fields in both countries, but the water is not enough. So they said that Sakyan people and Kolyan people, Sakyan people said, we need this water. Kolyan people said, no, we need this water too. So they could not come to a conclusion and they discussed. They came to have a fight, a battle, to share the water. And then, you understand that, right? Imasha and Shavan. See, the Buddha is in between those two people in the picture.
They could not come to a conclusion to share the water peacefully in the river Rohini, and finally prepared to fight each other, calling a war. At that time, the Buddha was still residing in Jetavana monastery of Savatthi. With the divine eye, the Blessed One surveyed the world early at dawn and saw that the battle was about to happen between the two opposing sides that very evening.
It's not a good news. It's not good news, huh? And then the Buddha, without of compassion, went there to settle the battle. Sandesh.
The Blessed One further saw that he would be able to stop the war. Out of compassion, the Blessed One approached them and preached them in Jataka stories, and finally preached the Attadana Sutta to them. This brought them a great benefit of unity and harmony. Having heard the discourse, the Sakyans and Kolyans each gave the Buddha 250 youths to enter the order.
Attadanda Sutta is a sutta to talk about the punishment of self. So it's not a good idea to punish ourselves. So when you punish someone, when you hurt someone else, that's a hurt of yourself. Like Attadanda Sutta. So Buddha taught this beautiful sutta with Jataka stories too, and then they were really happy to listen and to have peace. And 250 from each families, each countries, 500 altogether, went to the Buddha for the ordination. They offered these princes to the Buddha. Subodha.
Arahant Mahaprajapati Gautami Theri. Queen Mahaprajapati Gautami was the Buddha's foster mother as well as his maternal aunt. King Suddhodana married both sisters Maya and her younger sister Gautami. When Queen Mahamaya died on the 7th day of the birth of Prince Siddhartha, her younger sister from that day became the queen and foster mother of the prince.
So this is about Mahaprajapati Gautami Queen. She was so fortunate. Actually, she came from the samsara to have this opportunity to take care of this wonderful prince Siddhartha. And she got this opportunity. Now she is waiting. Sabine.
She was sad and lonely when Prince Siddhartha, Rahula his son, and her own son Nanda renounced the worldly life for a higher life by entering the noble Sangha order. King Suddhodana also passed away on attaining arahantship. Ordination was now foremost in her mind.
Sadhu. Mahaprajapati Gautami Queen. She had two children. Do you know the names of these two children of Mahaprajapati Gautami? Siddhartha was born to Queen Mahamaya. Anyone else? The names of two children of Mahaprajapati Gautami?
So,
And
Master,
Suki.
is it Nanda and Nanda?
Nanda, Prince Nanda and Princess Nanda. Yeah, very good. They were fortunate because of the Buddha and they attained arahantship. Beautiful stories we have. And then Rahula was the son of Prince Siddhartha. Now she is alone at home in the palace.
One day she approached the Blessed One, respectfully bowed down to him, and said, "It would be good, Venerable Sir, if women were allowed to go forth into homelessness on a spiritual path made known by the Buddha." Enough, Gautami. Do not favor the going forth of women in the Buddha's dispensation.
Sadhu. Now she's wanting to go to the Buddha for her ordination, to become a nun, to become a bhikkhuni. Do you know the word bhikkhuni? Bhikkhuni is a female monk, you can say that. Bhikkhu is the Bhante. Bhikkhuni is the nun or the female monk. Now she went to the Supreme Buddha not with robes. She went to the Supreme Buddha and said, Bhante, the Blessed One, I want to become a nun. Buddha said, enough, Gautami, do not favor the going forth of women in the Buddha's dispensation. No, Gautami, it's not a good idea. For a second time, for a third time, she went to the Supreme Buddha for ordination. The Buddha rejected. Now, she wanted to have this opportunity anyways. So she cut her hair off and wore the yellow robes with these 500 women. Do you remember these 500 women from Sakyans and Kaulians families? Those who went forth into homelessness to become monks after the battle. The women waiting with these 500 women. Gautami went to the Supreme Buddha. Tuvini and Tinuli. Let me talk about something little about this picture. Such Gautami is bowing to the Supreme Buddha, asking for ordination. You can see one bhikkhuni is standing and the other Bhantes are sitting. The Buddha is not allowing, not giving the chance. Yes, Pratha, you're reading.
A second time and a third time she asked the same question and got the same reply. She thought, the Buddha doesn't allow a woman to go forth in the Buddha's dispensation. In Dhamma and discipline proclaim the Tathagata. Sad and tearful, she bowed down, circumambulated him with her right side toward him, and left.
She was so sad to be rejected. They go around the Buddha with their right hand towards the Supreme Buddha. Like you go around the stupa or the Bodhi tree, saying Gathas, like that. This is a respectful way. And then she bowed and left. Sad. Aga. Let me talk about this picture. It's drawn by Gayan Chanuka Vidana Patirana, Sri Lankan writer, very famous writer, about the characters of Bantes and nuns actually. He can draw these beautiful pictures. I'm grateful to him.
At one time, the Buddha was staying in the Sakyan country in Banyan Tree Monastery at Kapilavatthu. Queen Mahaparabachapati Gautami, having her hair cut off, putting on yellow robes, and went to the Buddha with 500 women whose husbands already went for the ordination from the families of the Sakyans and of Kolyans.
Father, son. Mahaprajapati Gautami, as a very senior nun, this picture used as a good information. Remember, the Buddha was sitting, Mahaprajapati Gautami and 500 other women were waiting near the gate, and Venerable Ananda Bhante was sitting nearby the Buddha and requesting the ordination for the women.
She stood outside the gate, sad and tearful, covered in dust and her feet swollen. Venerable Ananda Bhante saw her there and said to her, "Why are you standing outside the gateway like this?" "Because, Venerable Ananda, the Buddha doesn't allow women to go forth."
Sadhu, sadhu. She said, "We are waiting for the ordination, but the Buddha doesn't allow." Now she is ready. Without the permission, she cut her hair off with 500 women and wore yellow robes and went to the Buddha on foot for a long journey. It's a long journey with the feet swollen and dusty. She was tired and waiting. Ananda Bhante went there. Deha,
Venerable Ananda Bhante went to see the Buddha, bowed, sat down, and said, "Sir, Mahaprajapati Gautami is standing outside the gateway, sad and tearful, covered in dust, and her feet swollen. He says he won't allow women to go forth. It will be good if women were allowed to go forth."
enough Ananda. Do not favor the going forth of women in the Buddha's dispensation. That was again the Buddha's answer. Okay. Who is the Bhante who was helping Mahaprajapati Gautami?
Arahant Ananda.
Yes, Ananda Bhante. Ananda Bhante is not Arahant yet. Remember? He became Arahant later on. Right? And then Ananda Bhante went there and he was so sad and he came to the Supreme Buddha and said, "Sir, the Blessed One, your stepmother Gautami is waiting for you for ordination." Buddha again said, "No, Anand, I am not allowing her to come to the ordination." Why? If you have any idea why, Linda? It's a deep question anyways.
I think Supreme Buddha foresee that if Supreme Buddha ordained the Bikuni nun, then the Buddha's dispensation will only last for 500 years instead of 1,000 years. So,
You're
yes.
right. You know that these people, they came through the Sanghara having this one idea. Even Mahaprajapati Gautami, these other nuns, they have fulfilled they have collected their merits for the arahantship. Even though Buddha says, "No, Ananda, it's not the chance for them to come for the ordination." Because the Buddha knew that this is something that reduces the time period of the Buddha's dispensation. Dimal.
A second time and a third time, he asked the same question and got the same reply. Venerable Ananda, Bhante thought, the Buddha doesn't allow women to go forth. Why don't I ask him in another way? He then said, if women were allowed to go forth, would they be capable of realizing the fruit of stream entry, the fruit of once returning, the fruit of non-returning, and the fruit of perfection? Yes, they would.
So Ananda Bhante was eagerly trying to come to a good answer from the Supreme. He asked Bhante, if they become nuns, is that any possibilities that they can understand this Dhamma? Buddha says, yes, Ananda, they can. They can understand the Dhamma. Can it? This is the Ananda Bhante in Polgahawala Sambuddharaja Maligawa. If you have visited this beautiful palace, you can see this wonderful statue of Ananda Bhante.
If that is so, sir, and considering that Mahaprajapati Gautami has been very helpful to you, she is your aunt who nurtured you, brought you up, and nursed you when your own mother died. It would be good if women were allowed to go forth.
Understand. Your mom, your stepmother, nursed you when they give her the chance. Huh. Beautiful, huh? Chamudi. The 8 important conditions of respect. Atta Garu Dharma.
Ananda, if Mahaprajapati Gautami accepts these 8 important principles of respect, that will be her full ordination.
Sadhu, sadhu. So it was a condition. If Buddha said, if they accept these 8 principles of respect, they can become bhikkhunis, they can become nuns. And do you remember this wonderful statue we shared last week too? Now this is not Mahaprajapati Gautami. This is Arahant Yashodhara statue. Yes, you have a chance to read Annie.
Okay. Bikuni, even if she was in the order for 100 years, must respect a bhikkhu, even of a day's standing. This rule, too, is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
Sadhu, sadhu. That was the first condition from the Supreme Buddha. For a bhikkhuni, if they accept this first one, I would give them their ordination. What was the first one? A bhikkhuni, even though they have 100 years as a bhikkhuni, as an upasampada bhikkhuni, higher ordinated bhikkhuni, they should respect even a samanera ordained today. She bowed, she respect for the samanera, even some small bhante. Do you get this idea? And Buddha was the Buddha was the owner of this dispensation. He wanted to protect this dispensation. That was his wisdom. Next chance is for Senon. This is the second rule from the Supreme Buddha for out of compassion. The second one of Ashtagaru Dharma.
A bhikkhuni should not enter upon the rains in a secluded dwelling, in a place where there are no monks. This rule too is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
Sadhu, sadhu. Rains is a word like in the Dhamma you see. Rains is a rainy season or Vasana season. During the Vasana season for 3 months, they do not travel. They stay in the same place as bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, both sangha. Sangha has two aspects, bhikkhunis and bhikkhus. And when the bhikkhunis should have this rains retreat, they should stay in a monastery or in a temple nearby a monastery, nearby the Bhante's monastery. They should not stay in a secluded place. Senila, you.
Every fortnight on Uposatha, observance days, a bhikkhuni should consult the bhikkhus. This rule too is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
Understand. Do you know this Uposatha day? Uposatha day is every fortnight the Bhantes recite their precepts, the virtues, 227 virtues they recite. And a bhikkhuni also had lots of virtues, lots of precepts. And then to do that, bhikkhuni should come to the Sangha. And before both bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, they should confess. That was the third principle from the Buddha for the bhikkhunis. Dinara. This picture was also drawn by Gayan Chanukya for his beautiful writings.
A probationary nun should complete 2 years of training before seeking higher ordination, upasampada, from both orders. This rule too is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
But I think we missed some. We didn't read this. Devindu.
A bhikkhuni should spend the Vasa rains retreat under the orders of both bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. This rule is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
They should stay nearby the Bhantes. And then this is for Rehan.
A bhikkhuni who has committed an offense should ply her life before both Sangha of monks and the Sangha of nuns. This rule too is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
When a Bhante has done something maybe a little wrong, they should talk to the other Bhantes and to be corrected. I have done this. For example, maybe accidentally I ate something in the evening or something. Maybe accidentally after 12. So that was an offense. So I should go to a Bhante and said, I have done this mistake. Like that. If Bhikkhuni has done something like that, they should come to Bhantes and say, I have done this mistake or something. You get this? Kemik. This was read before, but it's okay.
A probationary nun should complete 2 years of training before seeking higher ordination, upasampada, from both orders. This rule too is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
Sadhu, sadhu. Nitya.
After learning these 8 important principles of the respect from the Buddha, Venerable Ananda Bhante went to Mahaprajapati Gautami and said, if you accept these 8 important principles, Gautami, that will be your full ordination.
I'm sorry. We did not read this. We did not read this. The 7th one. Imasha.
A bhikkhuni cannot scold a bhikkhu. This rule too is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken.
That's easy to understand. Shivan.
A bhikkhuni cannot advise a bhikkhu. Rather, it should be the other way about. This rule too is to be honored and respected all one's life and is not to be broken. Anand. If Mahaprajapati Gautami accepts these 8 important principles of respect, that will be her full ordination.
That was the 8 principles of respect. It's beautiful, huh? And then if they accept these 8, that will be their full ordination. Linda.
After learning these 8 important principles of respect from the Buddha, Venerable Ananda Bhante went to Mahaprajapati Gotami and said, "If you accept these 8 important principles, Gotami, that will be your full ordination."
Beautiful, huh? So this is what she said after receiving the 8 principles. Aga.
She replied, "Just as a young woman or man who is fond of decorations would receive a garland of blue lotuses, a garland of lilies, or a garland of jasmine with both hands and place it on her head, so too do I receive these 8 important principles, not to be broken for life."
She was so happy to receive these principles, and she accepted, and she was determined to follow this because she wanted to become a nun with 500 people, 500 women. Ruby and Ruchi.
Venerable Ananda Bhante Buddha bowed, sat down, and said, "Sir, the Blessed One, Gotami has accepted the 8 important principles. Your aunt has been ordinary."
Yes, they got the opportunity. The Blessed One, Mahaprajapati Gotami, has accepted the 8 important principles. That was her full ordination. This is what the Buddha said after. Dinu.
The lifespan of the dispensation decreases with the foundation of the order of nuns. Ananda, if women had not been allowed to go forth on this spiritual path made known by the Buddha, the spiritual life would have lasted a long time. The true teaching would have lasted 1,000 years.
Yes. The teachings means like, if I share a little bit about this, the period that the fruits of the path can achieve the dispensation. But after 500 years, the fruits of the path, the achievements were vanished. That was a law in the dispensation. Next one is for...
But since women have been allowed to go forth, the spiritual life won't last long. Now the true teaching will only last 500 years.
Now the dispensation will last only for 500 years. What is it? Demand.
Just as families with many women and few men are easily robbed by thieves, so too the spiritual life doesn't last long on a spiritual path where women are allowed to go forth.
That's the reason. Families with many women and few men are easily robbed by thieves. In this way, the dispensation has this threat. That's what the Buddha said. Okay, everybody. This is about the formation of the Bikuni Ordination in the Buddha's dispensation. Now we have both Sangha, Bhikkhu Sangha and Bhikkhuni Sangha in dispensation. Everybody was so fortunate to achieve their goals of arahantship, and they released from the dangerous samsara. And then now we have Arahant Bhantes and Arahant nuns in the dispensation from the teachings of the Supreme Buddha. So some Bhante, some Arahant Bhikkhus and some Arahant Bhikkhunis had some titles. They were foremost in this way, in this field. So if, for example, the Venerable Arahant Sariputta Bhante was foremost in wisdom, Venerable Arahant Mahamoggalana Bhante was foremost in psychic potencies. Venerable Arahant Mahakassapa Arahant Bhante was foremost in the virtuous behavior and austere practices. In this way, Buddha in the Buddha's dispensation. There were Bhantes and nuns who were very foremost. So I have here something to share about some Bhantes and about some monks, about their titles and their fields. Linda's first. A few, right? Not all.
The Buddha's foremost disciples. The foremost of my monk disciples among those with a sweet voice is Lakuntaka Bhattya.
Lakuntaka Bhattya Bhante. He's very small, right? In the picture. Very short, not attractive. The other Bhantes like make fun of him sometimes. Buddha did not allow them to make fun of him because he was an arahant. Remember the story of Lakuntaka Bhante? He was a person in the Kashyapa Buddha's dispensation.
Is he a child?
No, he's not a child. He's a matured person. But he's very short. He's not attractive, but he has the sweetest voice. Sweetest voice among all the Bhantes, among all the Arahant Bhantes in the dispensation. That's why sometimes he said in his Theragatha, people are very happy about my voice, not about my appearance. They are not happy about my appearance, but they are very happy about my voice. They do not know about me. They have some attachments and they have some detachments too, but they are not able to understand me, who I am. That's really true, right? He is an Arahant. So when he was in the Kashyapa Buddha's dispensation, people were trying to make a stupa, build up, enshrining the dhatus, enshrining the relics of the Buddha. And he said, it's very, very big. We can make it a little short. We can make it a little small. With that bad merit, he was born as a short person. But he sang the Buddhaguna, the qualities of the Supreme Buddha, because of that. And he offered a sweet mango to the Supreme Buddha as a parrot, if I am not mistaken, in a previous life. And he was the foremost Bhante in the dispensation who has the sweetest voice. Beautiful information. Tuni. Again, these pictures are drawn by Gayan Chanukudana.
The foremost of my monk disciples among these, what the lines for, is Pindola Bharadwaj.
Pindola Bharadwaj. Nitya.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those skilled in giving Dhamma talks is Punamantaputta.
Punamantani Putta. Yeah, giving Dhamma talks to the. He was foremost in that field. Kemit.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who explain in detail the meaning of a brief statement is Mahakachan.
Mahakacana Bhante was very good at explaining the Dhamma, preached in brief by the Supreme. He was foremost, he was very clever. Meaningful.
The foremost of my monk disciples in creating a mind-made body, and among those who are skilled in the form jhanas is Chulapantaka.
Chulapantaka Bhante had these two titles. One is he can create a mind-made body. Remember when the Buddha was waiting for him as an arahant? The person went to the monastery and he created 1,000 people like this Bhante. But he could not recognize who Cholapantaka Bhante was. Remember, because he can create, he can manifest as 1,000 people. And skill in form jhanas is another title he got. Sandesh.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who are skilled in formless jhanas is Mahapantaka.
Pantaka, Chula Pantaka Bante's brother. Chamudi. Subhuti Bante has two titles too.
The foremost of my monks' disciples among those who live without conflict is Subhuti.
Subhuti, yeah.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who are worthy of gifts is Subhuti.
Subhuti Bante, yes. Jani.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who stay in the wilderness is Rivata Kadiravanaya.
Kadiravaniya, very good. Revata Kadiravaniya. This Bante is the brother of Venerable Sariputta Bante, and he used to live in a Kadiravaniya is the cactus forest. He used to live there and loved that. The brother of Venerable Sariputta Bante was foremost. Good, thank you for your reading. Susan.
The foremost of my monk disciple among those who are delighted in jhanas is Kankaravata.
Karyavata, very good. Senila again. Maybe you have seen this picture a lot.
Am I Bante? The foremost of my monk disciples among those who receive the 4 requisites is Sivali.
Sadhu, sadhu. Sivali Bante is the Bante who has very powerful merit. Wherever he goes, the alms food, lodgings and everything he receives. With the hundreds of Bantes, Buddha was visiting Premata Bante in Kadiravaniya, the cactus forest. Buddha looked back and searched for Venerable Sivali Bante. If Sivali Bante is there, and everyone gets food, alms food easily. Ramesh.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who gain liberation of mind through strong to faith is Vakkali.
Vakkali, sadhu sadhu, Vakkali Bante. He was so happy to see the Buddha's appearance. Sometimes he says, I cannot live without looking at the Supreme Buddha. He said, because he had a great faith. He said, he became Arahant and he was foremost in that way. Subodha.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who are willing to discipline themselves according to the advice is Rahula.
Rahula Bante was the son of Siddhartha Gautama. So he was the foremost in the receiving advices. Minupa, maybe you have seen this picture drawn by Sumatipal and Jyotipal.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who quickly attain realization is Bahya Daruchirya.
Bahya Daruchirya. Quickly he realized the Dhamma, even a fraction of a second. He understood. Chinali again.
The foremost of my monk disciples among those who went forth in the large retinue is Urvilakasapa.
Urvela Kassapa Bante. You remember the stories we talked about Urvela Kassapa Bante and their miracles and the Buddha trying. 1,000 people understood them. Jehan again. Foremost Bhikkhunis.
The foremost of my non-disciples in seniority is Mahaprajapati Gautami.
Mahaprajapati Gautami Venerable Arahant Bhikkhuni was foremost in the seniority. Again, this picture is drawn, you can see available in the Sambuddha Rajamalika in Polgahawala in Sri Lanka. Senon.
The foremost of my non-disciples among those with great wisdom is Kema. The foremost of my non-disciples among those with psychic power is Upalavanna.
Bhikkhuni Kema was foremost in wisdom. Bhikkhuni Upalavanna, the blue picture. She was foremost in psychic potencies. You know, among bhikkhus, the foremost Bhante in wisdom was Sariputta Venerable Bhante, and Moggallana Bhante was foremost in psychic potencies. These are bhikkhunis. Aga.
The foremost of my non-disciples among those who are well versed in the discipline Vinaya is Patachara.
Patachara bhikkhuni. Remember the story of Patachara? She was insane and she came to the Buddha because she had lost all of the people in the family, and she was muddle-minded, and she came to the Buddha without even a dress on her body. But she became foremost in Vinaya, in discipline. Such a wonderful the time period. Linda, this is Kisa Gautami asking a life for her dead child.
The foremost of my non-disciples among those who wear rough robes is Kisa Gautami.
Kisa Gautami, sadhu sadhu. Kisa Gautami was very fond of wearing rough robes as bhikkhuni. They were arahants. This is for everybody. Sadhu sadhu. So this is the beautiful episode to talk about the Bikuni ordination. In the book of Acharya Manuso, our Pinodloku Saminas talks about this very clearly. We do not have a Bhikkhuni sasana. We have only one sasana, that's Buddha's sasana or dispensation. In the Buddha's dispensation, we have bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. We talked about bhikkhunis today and the 8 Garu Dharmas, the respectful the principles, and then the foremost people, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis in the dispensation. This is a wonderful episode, I guess, and you enjoyed, I guess, I hope. And next episode, we will talk about the final Nibbana of the Supreme Buddha. And next week, we will talk about a summary that we have talked during this series. So with that being said, I'm happy to share the good merit with my teacher Bhante, our Pinodloku Swaminathan. May our Loku Swaminathan be well, happy, and live long. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.